So here we are. We are in week 2 of June, and I always start off with downloading those bank feeds. Now, we don't clear the bank feeds from the start. We enter the source documents and then match the QuickBooks transaction entries to the bank feed info lines. But we do like to have that bank feed reference so that as we're entering those source documents to help us if there's any ambiguity in the source documents themselves. So let's go ahead and open up the bank feeds here. And we have the CSV files and the QBO files, and the QBO file tries to sort of imitate what an actual bank feed would look like, but of course if you're using these source documents with another bookkeeping software, the CSV should suffice. And we can see that there is transactions in both the Canada Bank and the Triangle M card. Let's go ahead and we go to Transactions, Bank Transactions, and we can drop this down and say Upload from File. And I'm just going to drag over first the Canada Bank. Continue. And that goes to Canada Bank. Nope, not savings. Checkings. Continue. And done. Let's go ahead and do the other one. Drop down. Upload from File. And we can drag over the Triangle M card. Continue. And just type in triangle. There it is. Continue. And done. Okay, so we will go ahead and take a look at these transactions in the bank feed after we've put in the source documents. So let's back up. And I'm going to open up the week 2 with notes. And we can see that the first one is FP. I do believe that is Fancy Plants. So here we have a Fancy Plants invoice, and she says it's charged to the Biz MasterCard. Now, what we can see actually is that it's coming from Springfield, Arizona. It doesn't explicitly say that this is in USD, but it's coming from Arizona, so I don't know if this is in Canadian funds or USD funds. So why don't we jump over to the Business MasterCard bank feed and take a look at June 8th and see if we can see a Fancy Plants charge and if it's 814 or if it's a different amount. So here we are, and jumping over to the Triangle, that's the Business MasterCard. And we can see on June 8th, it says Fancy Planters Arizona USD 814, but the actual amount that's hitting the feed is $1,138.52. So let's highlight this amount, right click and copy, and let's go ahead and put this in. So we're going to go New, Expense, and it was Fancy Plants. There we go. And it was paid out of the Triangle MC. And that was June 8th. And the reference number is 156-123. And these are planters that she's going to sell in her store. So we're going to put this to Retail Purchases COGS. And Control V, we're going to put in the Canadian amount. Now, I say don't turn on multi-currency if you don't have a bank account or credit card that is in USD funds, because your bank and your credit card are all going to be hit up in Canadian funds, and that added complexity of multi-currency isn't worth the headache. So because Sarah doesn't have a USD account in either bank or credit card, and because we know what the actual amount is in Canadian, that's why we're doing this way. We're entering it in as the Canadian amount that's hitting up her credit card. And of course, the sales tax is exempt, 0 rated. It's or out of scope. It's not as much as an issue on the expense side. I've already discussed that. It's more important on the sales side to make sure that that gets right. And another thing that I sometimes like to do is I like to put in the USD amount right in here. So if I say USD 81436, this means that if I only have the paperwork and I want to look it up and sort of look up just the value, the search will find 81436. So that's just something that's not necessarily something you need to do. That's just a Naomi thing. So we're going to go ahead and go save and new. And let's see what is next in the folder. We have a DHL. So in this case, DHL handled bringing in those fancy planters. A lot of times the actual business itself who's selling across the border already has this sort of worked into their pricing, and it's usually just you only need to enter the expense. But for businesses that don't actually ship across the border from America to Canada very often at all, this is something that might occur on Sarah's end. That is to say, as the products were coming across the border, GST needs to be paid on them. So this is the customs duty and the GST on the imported goods, because fancy planters, you saw they didn't even know to put USD in their invoice because they're just not used to shipping to Canada yet. So that is this unique situation. I have seen this before, and the reason I have it in the case study is because I want to make sure that people know that on these customs invoices, you can claim the GST like that was charged at the border, like all of that. Most of this bill of 180, most of it is GST. How do we put that in? So let's go ahead and put this in. So this is DHL. And it was paid, she noted, with the MasterCard. And the date is June 12th. The reference number is 539-25566. Now, the category, this is interesting. Some people, if you're tracking how much it costs to ship things in, then maybe the shipping expense is a GL category in the bookkeeping. In this case, we're not tracking how much it costs to ship things in. We're going to consider that a cost of the product itself. So it cost this much money to bring it in. So you'll see on the Mcgroots invoices when they sell us mulch and there's a delivery charge, I just bulk that into the cost of goods sold materials. Though again, some people break it out. It's just two different ways to, to consider how to categorize your expenses. So I'm going to increase the retail COGS because that is what the fancy plants associated bill is what we booked that GL category to. And the amount, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say inclusive. I'm going to come down and the total amount including HST is 180.73. And there is GST, HST in that. So we'll just say HST. And we can actually specify what the HST, we don't have to accept the calculated backed out 13%. It's 143.92. So we're going to 143.92. And the new QuickBooks does not change the totals, which is great. It used to. So you can see that 3681 is what's going to hit up purchases retail COGS, and that's the subtotal here. And that 143.92 is going to go to GST HST, which is exactly what we want. So let's go save a new and see what's next. Next, we have a Best Buy receipt. Now this is another interesting, annoying situation that I see coming up is that when Sarah and Jane decided that they needed a tablet for the store, maybe they needed to upgrade because the one wasn't working well with Shopify or whatever, they needed a new tablet for the store, they just went ahead and purchased it on the account they were already logged in on, and it happened to be Jane's account, Sarah's spouse, and you can see that it was paid by their personal MasterCard. So this gives me pause, right? I stop and I think, was this submitted to me in error, right? Is this actually business expense? Because it wasn't purchased by Sarah. It doesn't say Grand Gate Gardens on it, and it wasn't paid by the business credit card. And so I would actually ask Sarah, I'm like, hey, Is this for sure business expense? I'm just wondering because it doesn't have your name and it's not paid by the business MasterCard. And then Sarah says, oh, yes. She goes, that's business. We were using it with the register machine. Just when we were logged into Best Buy, I didn't notice that I was still under Jane's account. I was just going really quick. But this is 100% business expense. So if this was a corporation, right, what would happen is because the order name isn't the corp's name, it might be questioned by CRA. So one thing that we can do is we could create an expense report for Sarah or Jane that requests reimbursement for this amount. But this is not an incorporated business, and it's also a lower amount. Like it's not like, $1,000 or something like that. And so because of that, we could just sort of treat this as just a general receipt and put this in as a business expense without worrying too much. Except I would actually, ask Sarah, oh, did you like e-transfer Jane money back for this? Or am I just putting it in as an expense? Paid by owner. And Sarah's like, oh yeah, no, I didn't send money back to Jane. Just say it's paid by owner. Or maybe she says, yeah, I sent money back by Jane, and then we'd put in an expense report. So as you can see, correspondence with the business owner does make your bookkeeping more efficient because then you're not going back or double entering things in. But also correspondence with the business owner about unknowns does actually make the bookkeeping take longer and cost more for the business owner. And so this is, sort of an instruction to the business owners, like, try really hard to make it easy, right? Only use your business credit card for business things and try to have everything in the name of the company, or, make sure it's your name if it's a sole prop and you don't need to set up like an account for the company. But just try to keep it easy. In fact, Sarah could have just written on here for the bookkeeper, enter as paid by owner. This was used for the business, just didn't realize what account we were purchasing it from at home. Then there's no back and forth between the bookkeeper and the business owner. There's no assumption, like you don't want a bookkeeper thinking, oh, this isn't business, and ignoring it completely. So finding that balance about communication and time, really being conscious about the information that's needed, both from the bookkeeper and from the owner perspective, is really what helps keep your bookkeeping costs low and your financials much more accurate. Okay, TED Talk over. Let's go ahead and put this in. So this was Best Buy, and it was paid by the owner's credit card or bank, and that was June 13th. So we'll say June 13th, and there is an order number, so we can put that in, 11305, 1234. What a coincidence. And over here, we can say that the category, so in this case, I'm going to put it to office supplies. If this was over $500, it would then need to be a capitalized asset, and we would put this under computer equipment. But because it's under 500, we can go ahead, just say office expenses. Though I do think it'll be helpful to say what this purchase was. So I'm just going to highlight this, put that in there. And then the amount, let's put in the pre-tax amount of $189.99 plus 0.5, and there's HST. And just double check, $24.76, $24.76. Sometimes there's no HST on the environmental charge. You might need to tweak that. But other than that, this one's good to go. We're going to go save and new. Okay, let's see what is next in the charges folder. Here is that Mcgroots. Good for your roots, Mcgroots. And we can see that it is paid by MasterCard on the day of the invoice. So because of that, we can put this in as a charge. So let's go ahead. This is Mcgroots. And it was actually paid out of the triangle. And the date is June 13th. Reference number 8789. And the category is, let's see, purchases and materials, cost of goods sold. And as I mentioned before, some people do like to track the delivery separately, but I'm going to consider the cost of getting this material. So I'm going to group it in all together. $465 plus HST Let's make sure it comes to 525. 45. Yep, perfect. And that's all that's needed here. We're going to go save and close because that was the last charge in the charges folder. Next, let's move on to the bills. So we have a Mcgroots bill. Let's open it up. So in this case, it actually was paid by e-transfer. Now we're not told when that e-transfer was made, but it also doesn't match the actual invoice amount. So now we get to have a quick little discussion about what to do in that situation. First of all, let's see if we can find when that e-transfer was sent. Was it sent June 8th? So let's go to the Canada Bank checking and just see. There it is. It was actually sent June 9th. So technically one way of thinking about this is we could put it in as an expense because, you know, the one day isn't that big a deal. But the amount isn't the same as the invoice. Now, if we put it in sort of an expense as $450, then what's going to happen is if we were to ever look up $446.35 to see if we have this bill entered or not, it's not going to show up. So this is part of the reason I like to put in what the actual bill amount is. Now, when we put on the payment of $450 though, then we have some options. So we don't know if Mcgroots is going to take that overpayment of $3 and something cents and have it as a credit on the account and then sort of deduct it from the next bill, or if they're just going to round up to $450 on their end. We don't know that. We sort of have to wait to see. So we are going to enter this source document in as if we don't know. We're going to go ahead and put in the payment as an overpayment and just sort of watch as the invoices come through to see if any credit is applied. And if it isn't, when we do our end of the month cleanup, that's when we can get rid of the overpayment. Let's go ahead and put this in now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say new bill. That's because the bill date and the payment date are two different dates and the payment amount is not the same as the bill amount. And this is Mcgroots Landscape Supply. And the bill date is June 8th. Bill number 8661. And the category is purchases and materials COGS. And then the amount is, the pre-tax amount is is that 45 or 95? 345 HST. Let's see what happens. 448. Nope. So that must be 395. 5135. Perfect for the total of 446.35. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. And that means that up at the top, we've got the make payment option. And we can say that on June 9th, and don't have the reference number populate if that like keeps going up because we use Canada Bank checking and QuickBooks is assuming we're using a check. That's why the print later option is there. And if we just leave that reference number in, it's going to be a red herring later. Oh, check number 4 is what paid this, which is not true. So we can either leave this blank or we can put in e-transfer because more crumbs the better. And what we're going to say is the amount is $450. And you can see that now we've got an overpayment. We've got an amount in credit for this vendor, Mcgroots Landscape Supply. And as we watch the paperwork come through, if we never see that credit taken, then we'll have to clean that up and we'll do that at the end of the month. So let's go ahead and save and close. And we're going to see what the next item is in our folder. So we have a Gnome Hardware bill. Let's take a look. So here we have a bill from Gnome Hardware. We can see it's charged to the account. And as we look at what was purchased, we see an extinguisher, a grow light, a poly tarp, but then this 11-piece non-stick cookware and the cast iron grill pan gives me pause because I'm not quite sure how that's business related. And so I say, hey, Sarah, you've given me this bill. Can you let me know, is this business related? And if so, how is it business related? So that I can put it in the notes if ever audited or reviewed by CRA. So by saying this, it's not like we're like accusing the business owner of anything. We're just saying we're looking to cover your butt, right? Like if this is business, it would be questioned by CRA because it's not logically looking business related. So let's put in the comments or the notes of the description how this is related to business if ever questioned by CRA during a review or audit. And at that time, Sarah says to me, oh, I should have noted that. I should have circled that and say that this is not business because I was at Gnome Hardware and I saw a sale that was too good to miss and the lineup was really long and I didn't want to like ask them to make 2 invoices. So I have this now on the business account and I didn't mean to. That was an error. This is not business related. So that's how we're going to deal with this Gnome Hardware. So let's go ahead and put that in. So we go new, we go bill, and this is Gnome Hardware, and the date is June 9th, and the bill number is XZ4321. Now, the last time we put in a bill from Gnome Hardware, it was purchases and materials, but we're going to put in those first 3 lines. We're going to put them in as supplies. So let's go ahead and say supplies like this. And I'm just going to add up these pre-tax amount, the first 3 lines. It's $32.99 plus $62.99 plus $43.98. There's HST on that, like this. And then the next line, we're actually going to say owner's draw. Okay, so owner's draw contributions. And I can even say that this is, in case she's curious about why is this going to owner's contributions. When she reviews the list later, that's because this is cookware and grill pan personal like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in both the pre-tax amount and the associated HST because you cannot claim HST credits on things that aren't related to business. So 59.99 plus 79.99. I'm going to tab out for a pre-tax total. Shift tab brings me back in. And I'm going to say multiplied by 1.13. So that's including the HST on that personal purchase. And let's just see 926.53, 926.53. Excellent. So let's go save and new and see what's next. So next we have a Funky Gifts wholesale. And when we take a look at this, we can see it's the 6055. And she notes that 59912 and 60055 were paid with a check on June 15th. So we can go ahead and put in the payment because if I remember correctly, we've already put in 59912. And of course we can confirm that. So let's go ahead, put this one in. So this is Funky Gifts Wholesale. And then the bill date is June 10th. And the bill number is 60055. And purchases retail is what we used last time. That's perfect. And let's put in that it's exclusive. So let's put in the pre-tax amount, which is 923.24. 923.24 with HST for a total of 1043.26. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. That's going to create up here a make payment button. So I can go make payment. And since we are saying, let's make a payment to Funky Gifts Wholesale, QBO is listing out all of the bills available. But because I came at this bill payment screen from within specifically bill number 60055, it's only checked that one off. No problem. We can make these changes. So coming over here, we can see the payment information. So it was paid by check on June 15th. And the check number is check number 20. And it was 212709 total. Let's just check off this other bill and look. QuickBooks has shown us indeed that is what it adds up to. So we can go save and close and take a look at what is next. Next we have a Signs and Wonders printing invoice. And we can see that it is a custom decal or decal, depending on how you pronounce that, for the new truck that she purchased. And I'm suggesting category advertising for that. And we can see that it was paid with check number 21. So she doesn't know what the date is of that check. So I'm just going to use the June 10th date for now. So let's go ahead and put this one in. So we're going to go new bill. This is Signs and Wonders Printing, and then the bill date was June 10th. And the bill number was 7302, and we've got already advertising, and the actual amount of this bill is 415 plus HST. And let's see, 46895, 5395. Yep, all goes in good. I'm going to hit save so that up here, the make payment shows up. We're going to make that payment. Now, she didn't say what date that check was, so I'm just assuming she brought the check in. It's populated to 21 for me. It's got the 10th. This marks the bill as paid. Did all the work for us. So we're going to go save and close. So let's see what's next in our bills folder. We have 2 more Gnome Hardwares. Now, right here, this is not a bill. This is actually a credit. So you can see it's a negative number and it's a credit to the account. And whenever you're entering a credit in, what you want to do is you want to offset the general ledger account that you increased when you put the bill in. So in this case, this is actually referring to the patio stones that she purchased last week, where we noted that the patio stones and the screenings were actually for the entrance of the store. So when we put in that patio stone and screenings purchase into QuickBooks, we didn't put it to materials, purchases and materials. We actually put it to property maintenance because she was maintaining the property. We didn't put it to leasehold improvements because the total amount of the expense was actually less than $500. So it's actually because I did the paperwork last week and saw those patio stones that I remembered this. It's because I know this business and I know she has not purchased patio stones and puts those into people's gardens. So far, she's only purchased mulch and bulbs. And so she hasn't actually been doing any stonework in her garden installations. And it's because I know this business that the patio stones sort of struck me as I only seen these once before. Oh yeah, when she made a note to say that it was for the entrance of the store. And so it would have been helpful if Sarah had written this again because, maybe it's been a week since I did that paperwork to say, return some of the stones, the patio stones that we were using for the front entrance of the store. So let's go ahead and put this in. So we're going to go new, and we're actually going to say supplier credit. And this is from Gnome Hardware. And the date is June 10th, reference number XZ4358. And again, it wasn't purchases and materials that we purchased the patio stones against. It was property maintenance, property repair and maintenance, and it is before tax $11.98 and after tax $13.54. Excellent. Let's go save and close and look at what the next bill is. So again, this is not a bill, this is a credit, but we've got a few things going on here. You can see that she has returned that cast iron grill pan for $79.99 plus tax, and at the same time she's purchased towels and garbage bags. So we want to increase supplies and we want to decrease that shareholder draw contributions account that we used when we just put in that cast iron grill purchase. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So because it's a credit, we're going to go new, supplier credit, and this is Gnome Hardware, and the date is 6/11, reference number XZ4402. And the first line here is the credit amount. So it's negative on this credit memo, but because we're entering in a credit, we're going to actually put this in as the positive number because a credit is by its very nature a negative entry. And if you remember, that cast iron grill actually went to owner's contributions and draw contributions. And it was put in including the associated HST. So 79.99 multiplied by 1.13. So that is the credit portion of this transaction. So now let's put in the expense portion. These two lines right here are her supplies that she purchased, towels, shop towels and garbage bags. And they are a positive number on this credit because it's the way that the credit is being presented to us. But because we're putting a credit in that's by its nature negative, we want to make it less negative. So we're going to go ahead and say supplies. And we're going to put in the 8.97 plus the 14.99, tab out, but I'm actually going to make that one negative. And there is HST on there. And so we can see it says negative HST, but a credit's negative, so that's actually a double negative, so that's going to increase our GST HST credits. Something else that we can do is we can just put in here that this was the grill returned. The grill pan returned. I kind of like saying a bit of a description whenever we hit up the shareholder draw or the owner draw account, just so that when somebody's reviewing that account, which can be very important, to sort of know why those transactions are going in and out of there. So let's confirm that the amount matches. We've got a credit of 63.31 and this is 63.32. So actually the HST is 7.2. Oh, what's interesting is there's probably rounding. We don't know if it's on the owner's draw or the supplies. I'm not too worried about a penny, so I'm just going to go ahead and make that 12. And then this is now 63.31, which matches the total of the credit. So now we can go save and close. So that actually is all of the bills for June week 1. Next, let's go on to the invoices. And we have 3 invoices, and a Gmail about a gift certificate.